Quarterfinals are over, and for many of us, that means our season has come to an end. Now is the time for us to build strength, gymnastic skills, and improve our overall capacity. We have a new training cycle starting on March 27th to do just that. If your open or quarterfinal scores are limited by your gymnastic skills and capacity, our intermediate path will go back to the basics to lay the foundation for our year-long development plan. If you need to improve movements like ring muscle-ups, bar muscle-ups, handstand push-ups, toes to bar, handstand walking, or many others, this path is for you. For the athlete who qualified for quarterfinals but wants to improve their placement on the leaderboard, our RX path will focus on building a big strength base this offseason. For those who need a larger strength focus, we'll include options to follow a standalone strength program to make sure you're getting bigger and stronger this offseason. For those who need more focus on their endurance, we will run progressions for hinging, upper body pressing, squatting, and running. And we'll also have extra credit skill progressions for those who struggle with ring muscle-ups, toes to bar, and rope climbs during the season. For our Masters athletes, we are currently peaking for quarterfinals. Masters athletes who qualify for semifinals, we will write a specific semifinal peaking path just for you. And for those athletes that do not make it out of quarterfinals, we will shift into an off-season strength and gymnastics development program just like RX and intermediate. Check the timestamps down below to learn more about a specific path. I think this is the time of year where reality kind of hits us in the face that, we're a lot better than the year before, but at the same time, there's still a long ways to go for most of us to reach the goals that we have. And so we need to get stronger. We need to get better at gymnastic skills or gymnastics endurance, all of those things. And what better time than to start right now?
Off season's here. Yeah. Summer bodies or whatever they call it.
Summer bodies.
Yeah.
Is that a good looking body or a bad looking body?
Oh. Yeah, it's a great looking body. It's a strong, healthy, fit body. I think that's the opportunity to allow your body to heal on its own timeline versus chasing a competition timeline, which is forcing your body to move at a rate of adaptation that it's not necessarily comfortable with. Now you can actually take the time this off season to get healthy, get stronger, work on the things that you need to at your own pace.
Yeah, I think it's identifying the things that were limiters for you in the open and quarterfinals, and then let's start working on those now. Like let's to use the analogy of a house, let's build that foundation first before we start building the walls and then the inside to make it look really pretty, which is kind of like the open time, the peaking time. But now it's like we have to have a firm foundation so that we waterproof it. We make sure that we put all the right things on the outside so that the elements don't mess us up when we get into the competition season. And that's what this time of year is.
Yep. Cool.
Let's talk about it. Let's jump into intermediate and kind of talk about what the base building time is going to look like for our cycle, which, by the way, starts on March 27th.
Yes. So for those of you who are new, the intermediate path is a developmental path specifically focusing on gymnastics development. It is not a scaled division, meaning that we're not just taking the RX path and making it easier. What we're doing is we're pulling out the pieces of CrossFit that are limiting you in becoming an RX athlete. And for most athletes, that's either strength or gymnastics. Well, in the RX path, you do plenty of strength work as you do an intermediate path. But what we do in intermediate is we put a ton of focus on gymnastics development and not just, you can't do a ring muscle up. Well, just do jumping pull-ups in the workout.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to get you to the point where you can become an RX athlete. And ideally, if you jump in the program now, it's a year-long process, which has been very successful. We ran this last year. A lot of people went from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 10 reps of a gymnastics movement and were able to compete much better in the open once they got there.
It was so awesome watching it all unravel this year when that open workout came out, because what a great open test to see if all that hard work had paid off all year. Mm-hmm. Work hard to get to the opportunity to do the ring muscle ups, and here's your test.
Yeah.
And you see how important the ring muscle up was. Like if you got 0, then you're outside the top 10%. Yeah. If you get 1, now you move up at a couple thousand spots. And if you get 2, it's another couple thousand spots. Like those are the movements that matter so much more than just can I go fast on a row?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And if you're missing those movements, hopping in during 4 months before the open or 2 months before the open because the open's coming, I'm nervous, I need to get this movement, that's not enough time. Unless you're very, very talented, you're just not going to develop the skill, you're not going to develop the strength, and you're just going to be disappointed again. So don't do that. Join us now. All right. So what we are doing is we're starting our year-long progressive gymnastics cycle. This block is like the foundation. It's before we get into the development where it's building volume in the skill and then layering different levels of fatigue into that skill as the year progresses, making it harder and harder as the year goes. But now we are working on strength. So we're going to run 4 strength/positional progressions during this cycle: strict pulling, strict pressing, hollow body development, and L-sit strength. So those will run every week. And then we're also going to keep up with our got none and got some programs. For those of you who are new, got none means you got none of the skill. So we're trying to get
pretty intuitive. Yeah.
We're trying to get you from 0 to 1. So it's pure technical work for bar muscle up, ring muscle up, chest to bar / butterfly
By that you
pull
mean
up.
got none reps. I got no muscle up reps.
Correct. Yeah.
Not like the amount of skills.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have
No reps.
I
of
got
that
none
skill.
skills.
Yeah. Handstand walk, wall walk, toes to bar, and I'm probably missing one because I got interrupted, so I lost my flow. But it was an important interruption.
It's the important gymnastics.
Yeah. All the things you need, and then we have our got some progressions, which means you have at least 1 rep of each of those skills, and you can obviously bounce back between the two. If you don't have a ring muscle up, but you have handstand walking, then you can do got some handstand walk, got none ring muscle ups. But everyone in this cycle is going to start off in the got none progressions, meaning we're going back to basics. Even if you have 10 unbroken ring muscle ups, which you probably don't if you're in this cycle or in this program, but if you do, you're still going to go back to basics and you're going to clean those up, because that's going to take you a lot further than just hammering through whatever technique you have if it needs to be cleaned up. So the first half of the cycle, everyone is going to do the got none progressions with a big focus on cleaning up your skills. And then the second half will take the people who got some and are going to do more technical progressions that are just a little more advanced than the got none version of it. So that's what we're going to be focusing on for this cycle. The big focus is the strength work. So we're laying that foundation, gymnastic strength work, laying that foundation so that we can run the progressions throughout the year and you're strong and healthy.
Real quick, what will you do for conditioning in the intermediate path?
We follow the RX path conditioning and the RX path strength. So take it away, Mike.
Okay. Yeah. Leading to RX. So RX, for those new listeners, this division is created for those that are on the lower end of quarterfinals. So you know that you comfortably made it past the top 10%. You went to quarterfinals and you're looking to improve and get better in your quarterfinal process or your placement. And then also those that were maybe semifinal bubble athletes that didn't quite make it, didn't move on past the quarterfinal stage going into semifinal. So it's a pretty wide range of talent, which is why we have it kind of split up. We have it as an RX plus division, and then we have it as an RX division. The RX plus is for those that need to handle, or that have the need to handle, to use, that have that basically have, baby brain, that basically have more, that need more training volume. So for those that want to split up training into doubles, they want to have 2 sessions in a day. They want to do a larger chunk of training volume for strength, and then they want to have a conditioning session separately. And then the RX division, just the regular RX, is just those that have like 60 to 75 minutes to train. So it's like a good blend and mix of them all. This off-season focus, we're going to put a large emphasis on strength development. So that's one of the large things that we notice with people getting held back from moving on to the next stage, is the inability to hit the RX weights that are prescribed in like the harder quarterfinal style test. So you're going to have the option of basically following a very heavy strength bias program through this off-season cycle. And it's going to be, this current cycle that we're coming into is part 1 block of a 2-block strength progression that we're running through the off season. All right. So what we're going to look like is backing off from so much of the heavy Olympic lifting and going into a little more technical work. So working on positions with the clean and jerk and snatch, making sure you're getting better at pause positions. And then we're going to go back to like unilateral strength work, making sure that left to right sides are balanced and there's no major asymmetry. And then just what this is doing is basically setting up a really good foundation for us to start layering in harder strength progressions as they come down the line. So this is a good opportunity if you've got banged up knees, your back's always tweaky, you're just running the same squat cycles over and over, and you're getting maybe like a little bit of progress or really not much at all. This is an opportunity to kind of like scrap it, start over from the beginning, let your joints get healthy, and then come into this with an opportunity to basically build a new base so that you can start handling harder strength volume again down the line. You're also going to see a lot of bodybuilding work, or what we'll call flextra credit. So we're writing that in as an option to basically use it as support work for those that maybe want to lower their conditioning volume a little bit and then have the opportunity to really focus on just to building some more mass and hypertrophy. For those that just need to get bigger and stronger and more powerful, this is a good opportunity in this cycle to follow this. So conditioning is going to be more about pulling the limiters from certain movement patterns that hold you back in a Metcon and actually training them specifically. So we'll have upper body pressing endurance training days. We'll have running progressions. We'll have hinging endurance progressions. We'll have squatting endurance progressions. And then we'll obviously do the throwdowns on Saturdays. And then extra credit will always be there. We'll have a couple of different skill development options. So it's not going to be so broken down in the way that the intermediate path is doing it, where we're like training the drills and positions through a large chunk of the session. It's going to have some skill development work, but it is still going to be about improving your capacity. So if you're in this division, you have the skills, you just need to improve your ability to do more of them. So it's like a step up from the got some progressions that we would do, where it's like you're doing a little bit of drill work, but 70% of that is more focused on improving the capacity of that movement. So you'll see things like ring muscle up progressions, toe to bar progressions, rope climb progressions through this current cycle. And then another thing that we're adding, which I kind of touched on, which I'm pretty excited about, is if you're an athlete who really needs to take a step back from conditioning volume because it really limits your ability to get stronger, we have basically a way to follow in the RX Plus division of a strength bias only program. So we're going to put in notes and guidance in there for you to go in and literally do a large volume of strength work, basically a standalone strength program through the start of this for these next 2 blocks of the strength cycle. So
what did you recommend that for again?
I recommend this for people that, let's say you have fantastic Metcon scores in a quarterfinal setting, but the power snatch ladder style workout comes out and you're just not even close. Like the change that you need to improve in that to be competitive with where you want to be in the quarterfinal level is like 40 pounds off. That to me is like a very clear indication. Like you have to spend a dedicated part of your year getting stronger with no distraction of doing any other style of training that's going to limit your ability to actually get stronger. You need to do it quickly.
Yeah. A good example of that is 23.2. So maybe you crushed the burpee and shuttle run,
Yep.
but then you had like a terrible thruster score. So if that's you, then the strength bias program makes sense.
And
Yeah.
how do you sell that person who's going to look at that and be like, but I'm not doing all the other things?
You have no choice. Like you're going to keep running into the same problem in the sport
Yep.
because you're not addressing it. And something I talk about with my individual athletes is you don't always have to look at it as just a year. You know, maybe it takes you 2 years and like you look at the next year's open and that's just a developmental point and you're like, I'm going to get stronger for the next 2 years so that I'm not holding back.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
not being held back by the strength test that always comes out. Like
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I see it as the same thing as like not being able to do a ring muscle up. Like you've
Right.
got all this capacity and then that skill comes up and you're bottlenecked by it. And like you didn't take the time to really break down the drill and learn the movement correctly. And that created such a drop for you on the leaderboard and hold you back long term.
What is it about that other stuff that takes away from actually gaining that strength though?
So a lot of it is just fatigue, right? So fatigue masks fitness. And if you are trying to develop through a strength cycle and you're doing extra Metcons, doing junk volume, and it's creating all this unnecessary excess fatigue, you're limiting your ability to express power in a strength session that is not allowing your body to adapt and create the change that you need. So if you go in and you do your squat work and then you finish the day off with a really long and hard Metcon, that's going to kind of bleed over into your ability to recover that night going into the next strength session that you might have the next day, and you're not pushing the numbers that you need to. So that's an oversimplification
Sure.
of it, but that's the big thing I see. That's the big problem I see. And people, they don't know that they're fatigued. They don't know that like this is really holding back my strength. Like strength progressions through a summer, the progress isn't always linear, but over 12 weeks, you should definitely notice a difference. And if you get through a 12-week block when you've been working on strength and you're not stronger, you're doing something wrong. So I think the big thing is making sure that you're just removing out anything that might distract you from that. And you're being a dedicated athlete that actually wants to get better in the sport and being okay with, all right, this is directly after the season. There's no better time than to start it right now because you've got so much longer to get back into the things that you might feel like you're losing, conditioning on or whatever.
Did either of y'all have to do that at any point in your careers?
For strength, no. Conditioning, yes. So I've actually always
the
been
inverse of what we
the
just
inverse,
said.
right? Like
I did
can,
it for gymnastics.
yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate that like I can look at a barbell and get stronger.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, was it hard to like manage that in your head to have to like?
absolutely, man. I mean, I've had coaches in the past that pulled me out of doing very consistent strength work, and every time I'd go back and like retest a snatch, and my snatch would be down 20 pounds, and it would get in my head. And then you have that voice, you know, or the coach would come in and be like, look, like, you'll be okay. Like, you've got to trust that if we do 2 strength cycles or 2 strength sessions, you'll get that number back up. Like, you're not super weak. You're just down on what your best is a little bit, and you're just focusing on the big picture.
But your conditioning went through the roof during that time?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for me, so going inverse again, you know, like, when I did a bunch of strength work going into conditioning work, I was so dampened in my performance and power output on doing doing the conditioning work, just is poor quality. And I see the same thing happen with someone that's trying to get strong. They're doing so much conditioning that the strength quality is really low. So I think with, again, like, why the urge now? Because you don't want to get to the fall period or coming into August, September, and then we do one of our competitions, or you do a qualifier, and the same issues there, and you've seen no progress, and you're not closing that gap at all. You know, you did a 4 workout competition. One of those, 25% of the scores was a strength test, and you didn't close the gap at all relative to the field. You don't want to all of a sudden let that be your motivation again to start, because that's too late in the season. So I think take advantage of it now.
Yeah, now is a great time to do that. And just to point out, Mike's the exception to the rule. Like, most people are weak and they need to get stronger. Mike, you're super strong. You just wanted to work on your conditioning. Or most people don't have gymnastic skills and they still want to hammer into all the Metcons. But the reality is we need to separate those things out, to your points.
I feel like you just had a Jake Berman moment.
What's that mean?
I look at a barbell and I get stronger.
Yeah.
Fastest burpees in the game.
That sounded super cocky and arrogant, but
No,
it's
it's true,
Yeah,
though.
I mean, the amount of strength work that I need to see change is not the same as what I need for conditioning improvements. And a lot of athletes are like that in the sport. Like, they need dedicated time to get better at strength. That does not mean doing 3 hours of strength work a day, but it means making sure that the dose that you're getting is uninterrupted, it's very high quality, and you're actually recovering from it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, train with purpose. And one way you can do this, or one way that you can identify if you're a strength-limited athlete, is just go and look at your scores from the Open, from quarterfinals, from previous competitions, and just see, where are you doing your worst? And I know that that's painful sometimes, but if it's the strength events, then that may be you that needs to work on that.
Yeah. So just to kind of, I guess, conclude the part of the RX, like, we have built the ability for you to go in and follow that strength only or more strength bias part of the program. So I'm excited about that this summer. And I'm really excited to see people still be involved in the community and following the day-to-day training that's going on, but with their own purpose and plan for it.
For sure. Our Masters athletes, they are actually still in the middle of their quarterfinal season. So when we start this training cycle on March 27th, that's the week that we will be tapering our Masters athletes for the age group quarterfinal. So if you're a Masters athlete and you want to jump into the program, now's a great time, because we will taper you for the age group semifinal. We will give you kind of what I would call behind the scenes access to warm-ups, cool downs, pacing plans. We'll do a tips video for all of those workouts. All of that will be all inclusive to those that are in TTT compete. Then after quarterfinals, we will have a 1 week deload. We're going to try to pull back, let you spend time with family, hopefully heal up. And then we'll ease into the training cycle that both Mike and Mia just talked about, where Masters is kind of a blend of both of those programs. In other words, we are focused solely on getting you as prepared for the true season to start in August, with a hard off-season program that's focused on gymnastic skills, strength training, and some conditioning work. Most Masters athletes come to us and they say they need to improve their conditioning, but in the Masters, especially as you age up, the limitations for most people are the skills. They can't do an overhead squat correctly. They can't get to depth. They can't squat. They can't get their arms overhead correctly. They can't do a muscle up or maybe a handstand push-up, or just strength. And there's such a bias for, especially 50 plus in the Masters programs, for those strength metrics. So we want to make sure.
You're so good at Masters when you get there.
You are going to be good at Masters.
I don't know. I was just going to say there's also a large emphasis on engine too, because as the movements get I guess, like lower in complexity.
Only in the open.
Yeah.
It changes in quarterfinals, and then it changes even more. And for those that haven't seen it, go back and watch our Masters podcast because I lay out all the numbers on this. When you get to semifinals, and for those that want to get there and beyond, it's definitely about strength and the skills.
Yep.
And engine only matters so much if you can't do the skills, to Mia's point, because like even the open workout this year, they made everyone do ring muscle ups. So the Masters men and women, 55 plus or 60 plus, that could do ring muscle ups, even if they got there with a minute left and someone got there with 5 minutes left, that person with 5 minutes left has a better quote unquote engine, but they can't do any muscle ups. Guess who's higher on the leaderboard? The person that did 5 ring muscle ups. So I bias that. I think it's a very important task that we handle and make sure that we start in the off season. And then again, we'll come back to the normal programming after that. For those that qualify.
Sorry, quick question. For Masters athletes who did not qualify for quarterfinals, what are you telling them to do?
Yeah, so for Masters athletes that did not qualify for quarterfinals, they would move into either RX after their quarterfinals, or you'll move into intermediate, which I've already posted in Compete. If you follow our daily videos, there's a little note in there.
Brief little detour.
Yeah. There'll be a quick note in there to follow intermediate. It's a great time, again, to build those gymnastic skills, to make sure that your body feels good. We want to have a longer deload. So this time kind of between the open and when we start this cycle is a deload. And it depends on when you watch this video, what time of year or what week we're in. But the reality is the last couple of weeks for intermediate has been kind of a base building time, but making sure that everyone feels good. For those that qualified for semifinals, once we get there for our Masters athletes, we will have a dedicated semifinal peak path. And so you will be assigned a coach, which will be me, Mike, or Mia, one of us, and we're going to help you prep for semifinals if you're a Masters athlete that makes it, which is pretty nice to have in a group program. You're not paying a ton of money, and you're going to essentially get an individual coach to kind of help you peak for that.
Yeah, I mean, we feel that's so necessary just because of multiple semifinals being on different weekends, and we don't know the format exactly of the workouts, so I think that we just kind of have to adjust on the fly and want to make sure that each athlete's tapering correctly and getting the individual needs that they have, especially like for, managing tweaks, managing fatigue, all those things, just so you can show up, your best on game day.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we're giving you the best value possible. And that kind of leads us into our elite path. We haven't really touched on this, and that's because very few people should be following the elite path now. So as we start this new cycle, all of our elite athletes that have qualified for semifinals, you already know who you are, because at this point, you've gone through the quarterfinal stage, and now you will be assigned a coach that will help you peak for your semifinals. But that will only be for those athletes that have made it. For those that have usually followed elite and they did not make semifinals, you will then move into the RX path, and this is a great time. All's the same. If you're an elite athlete or if you're an RX athlete or intermediate athlete, this time of year, if you're not moving on in the season, you need to focus on your limiters and make sure that you're building those up so that you can crush it in 2024.
Please don't follow the elite path if you're not doing semifinals. It makes no sense, especially now that aside from week 1, I mean, I don't know when the workouts are going to be released, but it's going to be a path based off of the workouts, right? Because every semifinal is going to have the same one. So it just makes no sense. I know that people have a hard time stepping down, quote unquote, because you're not stepping down, but please.
If your goals are what you say they are, don't do it.
Well, that's the thing.
If you don't give a shit and you're just having fun, do whatever. Screw your season up.
But then also be okay with doing bad again next year or not reaching your goals next year. Yeah. But if you are serious about your goals, train with purpose. I know I already said that, but that means that you're identifying those limitations. And if you are a high-level athlete, you're an elite athlete but didn't make semifinals, there's likely some kind of limiter there. Maybe it's you just weren't good at muscle-ups, or you weren't good at the rope climbs, or maybe it's a strength limitation. All of those things are covered in our new cycle, so make sure that you're going and taking care of that now so that you can crush it next year.
Yeah. I think too, something to mention is team athletes. So for someone that qualified on a team and is going to semifinals, I think you can follow what we're doing in elite in a sense, maybe pull some from there and just make sure though that you're being very smart with the volume and loading, because the team demands are very different from individual demands. But I think the tapering and peaking process is similar.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're excited about the offseason. This is I know it's such a coach thing to say, but my favorite time of the year other than the open prep. Yeah. Open prep's fun because it's like, we're getting into the season, but this is like, okay, let's figure out as coaches what our athletes need. Let the athletes figure out what they need, and then let's start building upon it.
There's one more thing. Floater challenges.
Snap.
Oh, yes, I forgot.
Yeah, we're so pumped for these. So when you start this new cycle with us, we basically created 6 tests. We're going to get 1 test per week that is somewhat of a community builder in the sense that we made it to where anyone in the program can do it. And we're going to have an internal leaderboard that goes on where you basically do the test each week, every day of the week that you want. We're not going to announce what the tests are until like the week of. And at the end of the 6 weeks, you'll have a compiled
These
score.
aren't big workouts, right?
No, they're short. They're all
fun,
like, they're all about
easy.
a minute long. They're just fun little challenges.
Don't give me a real one that's one of the 6, but make up something that would be one that would be an example of what you're talking about.
1 minute AMRAP jumping jacks.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just
They're
kidding.
less.
They're more fun than
No, there's
I don't know. I think
Terrible
next time
example.
we should do that.
there's purpose behind them. They are a way for us to gauge speed of repetition and skill in a movement that is being built into what we're actually developing. But they're written in a fun way that are just a really fun kind of basically bro out.
And there's
sis out
demos of
challenge.
y'all doing them, right? Or
Oh,
something?
yeah,
we have
demos.
standards, all that good stuff.
And
So,
I don't know if you said this, but we'll have of those 6 tests, we'll have a compiled leaderboard.
Yeah.
So after you
Yeah.
finish all 6 tests,
you
you'll be
can
able to
see who wins the circus tricks. The best, the most circus.
Talk trash to your friends.
Yeah.
And invite those that maybe aren't in the program. If you
Yeah.
have friends that are in your gym, a buddy, then challenge them, and it's a quick 1 minute test.
Yep. Cool. All right. Let's do it.
Let's do it.